Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is when you're watching this video. It's Robbie, and I'm back to react. I'm glad that y'all could make it today. This is going to be coming from the YouTube channel Above Average. Why are so many parents still acting like teenagers? I could think of a handful of things why you still see a lot of adults, preferably millennials and Gen Z, still acting like teenagers or kids rather. But we're going to save it for the video. We're going to give our thoughts throughout the video. So let's not waste no time. Let's get to it.
I believe that something is happening in our community and it's tough to talk about. But ignoring it, it's not fixing the problem. We having a maturity crisis right now, and it's tearing the culture apart along with these kids' futures. Every day, we seem to complain about how wild these kids are, how disrespectful they are, how they have zero guidance. But who do you think are raising these kids? We have a generation of children growing up without a single adult in the household. And let's start with the mothers, because we have mothers out here who are still behaving like children themselves. Instead of protecting their kids' innocence, they're actively teaching their kids how to be classless, ratchet, and just grown. You see it all over social media. Mothers dressing like their teenage daughters, taking them to clubs, twerking next to them, treating their kids like clubbing partners instead of their children, and just showing them that screaming and fighting and shaking their bodies online is the only way to get what you want out of this world. And to the mothers doing this, please stop. Stop making excuses. A mother is supposed to be who a child looks up to. But right now, so many mothers are just terrified.
I would agree that you do see a lot of that. There seems to be no more of a gap when you think about teenagers and the adults of today, like, 30 plus. You don't really see that much of a difference because we're all getting fed the same information. All of our algorithms, for the most part, mirror each other. So we see what the youth is doing, and the youth, they see what we're doing. And it's more so us wanting to adopt what the youth is doing for the most part, at least from what I see from my lens. You know what I mean?
Growing up because they're addicted to the attention. And I'm not saying don't have fun with your kids. Create memories. Just do it in a way that doesn't put them at risk, because we do have predators out there. They're watching your 15-year-old daughter twerk, and when you pass that behavior down, you're not preparing your kids for the world. You're trapping them in the exact same struggle that you grew up in. Your children don't need a best friend to make TikToks with. They have cousins and friends to do that with. They need a parent who gives them structure.
I mean, with the way things are right now, do they have cousins? Do they have siblings? People are now resorting to not having any children. So it does beg the question that the kids who are here, will they have cousins and stuff that they can do that with? People already have adopted this sense of isolation. It's like, okay, I got my kids, then there's me, and that's it. It's like, do we as adults meet up with our kids' friends' parents and have outings and let them spend the night? And, it kind of makes you think back to the days when I was coming up where kids used to borrow each other's games and stuff like that. You don't see that anymore because everything is online. You know what I mean? See, back then it was, all right, this is my friend. So at some point or another, our parents are going to have to meet up and get to know each other because, we sandbox friends. You don't see that now, at least from what I'm observing. You don't really see too much of that. But she is right, though. Women don't need to be friends with their daughters.
Guidance, a safe home to lay their heads down. Think about what that actually does to a child's head. When a home has zero structure, that child's brain, it just goes straight to survival mode. They can't focus in class. Their anxiety is through the roof because the person who's supposed to be there teaching and guiding them is unpredictable. A 12-year-old child should not be carrying the weight of a mom's relationship drama. A child should not be trying to calm her mom down after she starts a public fight.
Well, I hate to break it to you. That's something that has been going on for eons, well before a lot of us was born, going all the way back to when we adopted the whole Section 8 and food stamps, and they started taking the fathers out of the household. My father's generation actually is the generation where that started, Gen X, where the fathers were essentially removed out of the house. And then you had the latchkey generation. And so they had to deal with those traumas that they moms had to go through, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But I would also add this too. You know what? Let me let it play. I'll add that thought next.
When you force your kids to handle your adult emotions, I think you steal away their childhood, period. They're emotionally burnt out before they even hit high school. And then we sit around wondering why these kids are so angry and just quick to react. But they're literally just giving the world exactly the same chaotic energy that they were shown. These are what these kids were shown in the home. So when the adults refuse to grow up, the kids never stand a chance. We're normalizing toxic behavior.
You know what else too that I was thinking about as I started the video? Another reason why you see a lot of maturity that hasn't gotten past being a teenager is because us millennials specifically, we never really fully grew up. We were the first generation, in my opinion, that kind of continued to keep a little bit of our childhood near and dear. Me and my cousin talk about this. It's like we are probably the most unadult adults that exist, you know, with Gen Z right behind us. You know what I mean? It's like we want to do adult things, but it's like, wait, we got to be adults. We got to pay taxes. We got to pay rent and stuff like that. And then it doesn't help that the economy really didn't work in our favor. I'm talking about us who were born, you know, late 80s, early 90s, that cluster of adults that are out here right now. We really didn't, you know, get dealt the best hand when it comes to the economy, so to speak, at least right now in today's time. But yeah, we never really fully grew up. You know, we still reference certain cartoons. Like even to this day, I got Rocco's Modern Life and Angry Beavers. I got the DVD set and Hey Arnold. And I'll sit and watch that. You know what I mean? But it's different though. I do, you know, act my age.
And it's not okay. It's unhealed trauma passed down to a new generation of kids. Look, let me say this clearly because I'm not out here thrashing mothers. I'm not pointing fingers just to tear women down. I love us. I just want us to do better as women because we hold the keys to these kids' futures in our households. And the standards that we set are everything. I'm telling you this from of love and experience.
All right, so I can see right now she's really gearing this video towards the women and I guess holding the women accountable. Well, being that I'm a man, I'm going to speak for the men out there. We need to be more instrumental in our children's lives, boys and girls, because a lot of the crashing out that you see amongst the youth, a lot of it has to do with them not having a father in the house. Now, taking heed, there are some bad seeds out there that do have their father, and they still end up doing things that they shouldn't be doing. But if you are a strong father figure and you let it be known to your kid, like, look, you need to be worried about me first before you're worried about the law, because it's my house that you got to live in. So if I find out you out here doing something that you shouldn't be doing, you're going to see another side of me. See, if the children today were getting that type of discipline, it starts at home. You wouldn't see a lot of the chaotic behavior that goes on. So we have to also factor in the father has to be in the household. It can't just all be on the woman. The father has to be there because at some point when a kid starts to go through adolescence, they don't usually take their mom serious. Not saying that you don't have some others out there that get busy, but it's like, oh, that's mom. Like, okay, she slapped me. All right. I'm out here getting into fist fights with dudes. So it gets to a point where you have to, especially if you got boys, that they need their father so that they can, you know, understand, like, look, I'll F you up if you play with me. So, yeah, let her continue. Let's let her continue, though.
I have adult children today, and let me tell you, there is no greater feeling in this world than when your grown-up kids, they come to you on several different occasions. They look at you and tell you that you're the person that they look up to. My kids have done this several different occasions. It's a wonderful, beautiful feeling. But you only get that reward later in life if you choose to be the parent when they're young. You can't get that lifelong respect if you're too busy just trying to be their peer or their clubbing partner or their competition online. Your kids don't need another friend. They need to look at you and see an example of what a real mature woman looks like so that they have something to aim for. So, with that being said, if you're a mother, your highest priority in life is to protect your children's innocence. Monitor their social media or pull them off the internet. And when life gets too stressful or when someone tests you in public, show your children what a real mature adult looks like. Show them that you can handle conflict in public with dignity and with self-respect. Be the example they actually need. Handle your business with a little grace. Don't allow people to pull you out of your character.
You know what's so sad about this too? I just thought about it is that, you can do everything in your power to make sure that you protect your kids, make sure they're not on the internet doing things that they shouldn't. But at some point or another, when they become adults, you got to send them off into the world, and then they get lost down that rabbit hole and they start seeing stuff that you would have never wanted them to see once they become adults. I think the real problem is, and nobody wants to really admit it, is that the internet has, in a way, ruined society. Yeah, there's some good to it, but there's more bad than good. And we're just too deep into it now to just completely go cold turkey and say, you know what? We're going back to a time where the internet didn't exist, like the early 90s. We're going back to that time. The withdrawal would be catastrophic because everybody has gotten so accustomed to using a phone and getting all of that dopamine at one time. So that's the real issue. The internet's part of it. You know what I'm saying? And we have to use phones for our essentials now.
Let's just teach our daughters that their minds and their self-respect are the true power. Allow these kids to feel safe enough to just be kids. I'm telling you, we got to start saving these kids because if we don't grow up right now, once again, they will not stand a chance. But you know what? This is just not for mothers. Let's talk about the fathers who never grew up either.
Oh, okay.
The 50-year-old men who are closer than crashing out in the streets than they are to being mentors. At 50, you should be a grandfather, a mentor, someone teaching the next generation how to build, how to
All right. So I apologize. I spoke too soon. So she is going to address the males. Okay. All right, cool.
survive and how to stay out of the streets. Just teach these young men how to conduct themselves whenever there's a conflict. But instead, you have 50-year-old men with gray hair still in the street chasing validation, hanging on blocks, wearing the same clothes and running from the same things that they were running from at the age of 16.
I.e. Jim Jones.
Be the man who pulls that 20-year-old kid aside and says, hey, I survived that path and it leads to a graveyard or a jail cell. Let me show you how to get it right. But instead, too many are still competing with these young men. Too many grown 50-year-old adults are still competing with 25-year-olds, still trying to prove that they're dangerous. There's nothing honorable about being a 50-year-old crash out. So if you are an older man still hanging in the streets, go heal. You need to just go heal. How are you old enough to be a grandfather and your highest priority is who still respects you on a corner? A corner that you don't even own. Nobody cares how feared you are on the block because a 50-year-old man shouldn't find pride in being feared on the block.
That's a fact, because let's keep it real. If the state decided that, hey, they want to come through and bulldoze that whole area and put high-rise apartments, luxury condominium apartments, you ain't going to fight back or say, no, this is my block, this is my corner. They're going to look at you like you stupid. This only applies to the likes of people that look like you or who have lived in that neighborhood all their life. That's who you're addressing. You're not going to tell this multi-million-dollar corporation that, hey, you can't come through here because this is my block. No, it's not. You don't own that block. You just occupy it for a time. You occupy that space for a short period of time before they come and tell you to move.
Standing on a street corner at 50 years old screaming about a block that they don't own is crazy. And we have to stop glorifying this behavior. Let's talk about how stable and respected you are in the household. Let's talk about how you're teaching and keeping these young men from living that street life. Put down the rags. Step away from the drama and just go find purpose, a purpose that'll build up the next generation. Become the protector that you never had. One thing we have to realize is that this behavior doesn't just stop with the current generation.
Sad to say, but the powers that be, they like degenerate behavior. It's making them money, unfortunately. They make money from degenerate behavior. The more crashing out, the better. The more money. Like even that song that Young Miami made that was going crazy all summer. It's a very low vibrational, low IQ song, but everybody's singing it. Not me, but everybody's singing it. And people don't think that the music has an influence on the youth culture, but it does, because music in a way casts spells. And I know some people are like, oh, here you go with the Harry Potter shit. It's real though, you know?
It creates a domino effect, completely confusing these kids. So when a boy sees a grown man with gray hair still trying to prove that he's dangerous on the block, he doesn't see a grandfather or a father figure. He thinks that's the only way to be a man. When a young girl grows up seeing her mom chase internet validation at 50 years old, she learns that her only worth comes from attention. We're actively training the next generation to become the exact broken adults that
Some people
we're
I just think don't
complaining
want to
about,
grow up.
basically. We keep asking when the cycle will break, but the cycle can only break when the adults decide to log off the internet, step away from the block, and actually look at that damage that they're doing under their own roof. And here's what it really comes down to. We need spaces where manhood means stability in what you build, not what you destroy. We need mothers to just step back into the role of being a protector and not their kid's best friend. I'm telling you, your kids don't want a clout chasing mother. They want a parent, someone who shows them what real maturity looks like.
A lot of these kids got tablet brain too. That's another thing. They can't even focus for more than 5 seconds. You be calling their name, giving them instructions, and they just be zoned out like they don't hear you. I'm telling you, man, technology, we don't want to admit it, it has warped the minds of millions of people, not just kids, but teenagers, grown adults, elderly. People don't even know how to read a phone bill anymore. Matter of fact, they don't even read the terms and the policies of things that they're signing, but then will call irate and upset because somebody didn't verbally tell them, like, look, all this information is free on the internet. You spend all day doom scrolling. Why don't you go and read the terms and conditions for yourself? Actually use your brain. I'm sure most of you were born in the 1900s during a time where you had to actually read stuff from a book, yellow pages, things like that.
When life gets stressful, someone tests you in public, they need somebody who can handle conflict with dignity and doesn't let anyone pull them out of character.
No, everybody want to
Because
be
right
viral.
now, we're forcing 12-year-old kids to become the adults in the household because the grown-ups in their lives are refusing to grow up. We have to stop acting like this behavior is okay. It is not okay. It's destroying our families, it's ruining our kids' futures, and it's destroying our community. Because at the end of the day, these kids didn't ask to be here or to raise themselves. So if the adults in our lives don't grow up, these kids will never have a chance. So do me a favor, drop your thoughts in the comments below and keep it real. And thank you so much for watching.
All right, y'all. That's going to be the end of the video. Yo, shouts out to her, man. I'm going to have to sub to her channel. You know what I'm saying? That was some really good content. But I totally agree with everything that she's saying. We definitely need to get everything back in-house and start being the adults that we're supposed to be. It's okay to, you know, still have a little, be childlike in some ways, but you also have to be mature and let children know, like, look, there's a space where you belong and you don't belong in my space as an adult, because mentally this is not something that you are prepared for. Okay, there's a reason why you're still a child and why you should do child things. Play with your toys, play with your friends, ride your bike, still stay in a creative imaginary space. Stay there, because once you become an adult, that whole thing is going to change. Not saying that those still can't exist and you can't still use your imagination, but that's when the real work begins. And now you have to go in survival mode, so to speak. So yeah, I totally agree with what she's saying. But yeah, if y'all made it this far into the video, I appreciate you. Make sure y'all sub to the channel, chin check the like button, and make sure y'all sound off in the comment section until your asses are kicked out. Let me know if y'all agree with what she's saying. You know, let's have a talk about it. All that being said, it's your boy Robbie. To the next video, we out of here.